Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Thursday, March 5th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 705 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we are discussing the latest New York Jets news and the latest rumblings surrounding the New York Jets quarterback position. I want to open up today's podcast by talking about the Jets being linked and doing their homework on Tua Tagovailoa, so we'll break that down to open up the podcast today. Is Tua a good option? I'll give you my thoughts on that, what this means for the New York Jets as their quarterback search continues, as we get closer and closer to legal tampering period, NFL free agency on Monday. We'll break down the possibility of Tua and the New York Jets. I also want to break down the latest reports surrounding a potential Jacoby Brissett trade. Yesterday, CBS NFL insider Jonathan Jones reported the potential trade value that the Arizona Cardinals would be looking for in a Jacoby Brissett trade. So I want to talk about that and just talk more about Jacoby Brissett being a realistic trade option for the New York Jets and where I stand on the possibility of Jacoby Brissett being the Jets' quarterback in 2026, which I happen to really like that idea, as we've talked a lot about already on this podcast so far this offseason. But we'll open up today talking some Tua, division rival Tua Tagovailoa, who is expected to hit the open market. Similar to Kyler Murray, the expectation is that the Miami Dolphins, in a world where they release Tua, the expectation is they will release him. He'll hit the open market. And similar to Kyler Murray, which we talked about yesterday, Jets also linked to Kyler Murray as one of the teams that will be interested in him, one of the teams that could be in the market to sign him when free agency rolls around here in a couple of days. Tua in that same boat. In the event that the Dolphins release him, which is where that is headed, that's the expectation, he would be in the market for a cheap 1 year, $1.3 million deal. Kyler Murray, same thing. Tua, same boat. You're essentially getting him for the vet minimum while the Dolphins swallow a good chunk of that contract. And Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network reported the other day, or yesterday, I should say, some more news around the NFL. And with that news came the Jets and doing their homework and being interested and doing some more looking into a possibility of signing Tua. So I want to play this clip, and on the other side, we'll discuss more on the possibility of Tua, my thoughts on the idea of Tua and the Jets being a pairing. Here was Mike Garafolo on the latest around the Jets and Tua.
Tua Tagovailoa, sort of like Kyler Murray, in that if he gets cut, he is going to be available for potentially the veteran minimum to come in and be a starting caliber quarterback. So financially, it makes a lot of sense. Teams are doing work on Tua, from my understanding. The Jets, amongst them, making some calls to get the fullest sense of who Tua is as a person. The Jets have multiple options when it comes to the quarterback situation, and Tua, I believe, is among those. So let's see if the Jets can keep him in the AFC East and what happens here with Tua in the near future.
So that was Mike Garafolo yesterday on NFL Network discussing Tua and the possibility of the Jets being a realistic destination and what the Jets are doing. As he stated, they're kind of doing their homework, doing some background on him, what he is like as a person, what he's like in the locker room. Obviously, you break down what he can do on the field. And the 1 year, $1.3 million is really where guys like Tua and Kyler become much more realistic options, just because of how cheap they are, and getting a player like that on a cheap contract based off of some of these other potential free agent contracts is where some of the appeal can come in on either of these guys. I bashed the idea of Kyler Murray multiple times in this podcast. And the only reason I'm bringing Kyler Murray into this is to preface my stance on where I am at with Tua. I would take Kyler Murray in a heartbeat over Tua. Out of all the options we've discussed, to simply put it, I want nothing to do with Tua Tagovailoa playing at MetLife Stadium, playing in the cold weather late in the season, playing for the New York Jets. I think this would be an awful pairing, and you guys know where I stand on Kyler. I would take Kyler Murray over Tua. I would take just about any option over Tua. I want nothing to do with Tua being a New York Jet. And similar to the Kyler Murray rumors, I think the Tua and Kyler rumors and the possibility of them signing with the New York Jets, I don't think are going to happen. I think you're looking at other destinations as being more realistic for both these quarterbacks. I also just don't think Tua and Kyler fit what the Jets want. But for the sake of the conversation, I don't want this at all. And I have to give credit to Jake Asman, who does a great job, obviously, covering the Jets over on his channel and great Jets content. Yesterday, he sent out a tweet when this Tua news started to get brought up amongst the Jets fans, and when Mike Garafolo and this clip was released yesterday on NFL Network about Tua and what it would be. And he essentially stated signing Tua at quarterback would be the Adam Gase version of signing a quarterback, right? And it's exactly a very good comparison. And that's where I'm at with Tua. This, to me, would just be a complete disaster. Number one, I don't think he's very good. Number two, the injuries and the concussion history are all serious concerns. And the fact that it didn't work out in Miami with the talent that they had, the opportunities that they had during these last couple of seasons with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and the fact that Tua could never elevate that team and get them over the top, even win a playoff game, is really concerning. But it would be very similar to the Jets hiring Adam Gase. It would be the Adam Gase hiring as a head coach, the quarterback signing equivalent, right? Gase got ran out of town in Miami. What did the Jets do? They hire him as their head coach after he just gets run out of town in a division rival. Same thing here with Tua. Sure, he's got some experience. Sure, there's been some good Tua moments, right? But he just gets run out of town in Miami. They release him, division rival. Now you're going to go ahead and sign him? You're going to pick up the scraps, essentially, in this division and put him on your roster? No way. No chance am I doing that if I'm Aaron Glenn and the Jets. Number one, let's just talk about it. Tua's not this great elite quarterback. He's not a very good quarterback. I think he's very overrated by some. Let's just take a look at his numbers last year. 14 games started, 67.7% completion percentage, 2,660 yards, 6.9 yards per attempt, 20 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, a 37.5 QBR, and an 88.5 passer rating. His QBR was third worst in the NFL, only better than Geno Smith and rookie Cam Ward. He had the second most interceptions thrown in the NFL last season, only behind Geno Smith. He was 22nd in yards, so well near the bottom half, essentially bottom third of the NFL. He was not good at all last season. And he hasn't been good enough really his entire career. The Dolphins built up a solid roster around him. They put themselves in a position to win with Tua and Mike McDaniel before things got rotten there. And the collapse they had in 2023, the lack of winning games in the cold, being able to go up to Buffalo and win, all of those different things came back to hurt Tua and the Dolphins, and a lot of that fell on Tua's plate. We've witnessed it firsthand in the division as Jets fans. Sure, he's dominated us. That's not hard to do. Rest of the division, big games. This is a guy that crumbles. This is a guy that struggles. To sit here and tell me that you're going to sign Tua to play at MetLife Stadium in November, December, in 30 degrees, below 40, even in the 40s, and expect him to have success is crazy. That's another thing. Forget just the on-the-field performance. The weather has a big factor in this too. Right? There is certain landing spots for certain guys that make sense. Tua in a warm weather environment makes a little bit more sense. Tua playing at MetLife Stadium in November or December has failure, has losing, has disaster written all over it. The guy is 0-6 in his career in games below 40 degrees. He's 1-7 in 45 or colder, 2-8 in 50 degrees or colder, and 55 degrees or colder, 4-13. You tally that up from 55 degrees or colder. Tua in his career is 7-34 in colder weather games. That's a 17% winning percentage. That's awful. That's losing after losing after losing. Struggles, bad play. Now you expect him to come here at MetLife Stadium. Not a great arm in this weather, the wind, the climate, and have success. That's a whole nother factor in it too. I think it's a terrible fit from that standpoint as well. Plus the fact that I just don't think he's a very good quarterback, even when he's playing in a warm weather climate like Miami. He's not that good. The arm's not great. The interceptions, the turnovers are a concern. He's had 3 times in his NFL career where he's thrown double-digit interceptions. I mean, the guy in 11 games last year threw 7 picks. You stretch that across 17-game season, you're looking at another double-digit interception. He threw 14 interceptions in 2023, 10 in 2021, 15 last year, 59 interceptions in his 6-year NFL career so far. He turns the ball over a ton. The accuracy, there's some bad misfires that we've seen from Tua. His overall game just isn't great. And he's not exactly the Frank Reich quarterback either. 6'1", 225. He's not exactly that strong arm, 6'4", 6'5", pocket passer that could take a hit, steps up in the pocket, plays within the offense. He's not exactly that quarterback. You look at his career numbers, 78 games played, 76 of those starts. 68% completion percentage, 18,166 yards, 7.5 yards per attempt, 120 touchdowns, 59 interceptions, and a 96.4 passer rating. In a lot of ways, he was a big reason for this last Miami team, these last stretches of Miami teams, that kind of core that is now getting broken up in Miami as they enter through a rebuild. Tua was a big reason why they never got over the top. And I just think the Jets are an awful match. Warm weather climate, one thing. But to throw his performance that he had last year on the table, then he'd be coming into a cold weather, playing at MetLife Stadium with the wind, the cold, something that he does horrible at, something that he's always struggled with. You throw that into the mix. On top of the injury history, the concussions are a real concern. Multiple major concussions. This is a guy that in a lot of ways is walking on eggshells with his health. And I don't want to come across negative or mean by saying that, but it's the truth. He's had multiple bad concussions. That's a concern moving forward. I get he comes cheap. I want nothing to do with it. Get run out of town by a division rival. Now you're going to sign him. As Jake Asman put it, I mentioned earlier, give him credit for this. It's basically the Adam Gase version at quarterback. Gase gets run out of town, disaster here. Tua gets run out of town in Miami, would be a disaster here. I also don't think Tua is exactly the locker room leader, the guy that Glenn wants, right, is one of 53. I don't think he comes across like that either. And how many times has Tua embarrassed himself in the media, How many times has he said things that just don't make a ton of sense that people joke about? But from a Jets perspective, New York media perspective, I think he'd get torn to shreds here. I think he would be awful with this media. The minute this team hit adversity, the minute he struggles, I think he would completely fold in front of this media with this pressure. Because we even saw that in Miami in the big moments he folded. So I just think Tua is an awful fit. I want nothing to do with him. I urge the Jets to stay far away. I think they will. I don't see this being a match just from Tua's perspective. And with all these quarterbacks, I don't think there's much of an appeal either, probably from his perspective coming to the Jets. From Tua's angle, it doesn't make much sense for him to come to the Jets either. Right? For a lot of the reasons I listed, a lot of his weaknesses and a lot of things he struggled with in his career, it wouldn't fit well with the Jets. And that same goes from the Jets' perspective. I take Kyler Murray before Tua, and that's saying something because I want nothing to do with Kyler Murray either. But that's how low Tua would be on my list, and that's how low he is, and that's how much I'd urge the Jets, as I just said, to stay far away. So that's the Tua talk, as the Jets obviously have some level of interest. They are doing their homework, getting a feel on Tua and the market and the possibility of him being this team's starting quarterback. We now move on to another quarterback that I am all for the New York Jets trading for, and I've been on this train for a while, especially since Frank Reich was hired. Jacoby Brissett has flown on the Jets' radar, and out of the entire Jets fan base, if there was like an upper echelon of Jacoby Brissett supporters, I would probably be in that upper echelon. I would be near the top. Out of all the names that we've talked about over the last 2 months, via trade, free agency, draft, Jacoby Brissett's always been near the top for me. He's always made the most sense for me, and he's always been my preferred quarterback of choice when talking about all these various names. And the other day, or yesterday, I should say, Jonathan Jones wrote a column for CBS, NFL on CBS Insider, and in that column, he hinted at what the Arizona Cardinals would be looking for in a potential Jacoby Brissett trade, which seems more and more likely as each day goes by. And I wouldn't be surprised whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's sometimes over the weekend. I could even see this being like a Sunday night, Sunday afternoon thing right before legal tampering begins on Monday, where the Jets go out and trade for Jacoby Brissett and at least put themselves in a position to have one quarterback before free agency begins. So I could see this move happening any moment now. That's just a feel. That's not me with inside sources. That's just my opinion. I think it would make sense for the Jets to make a trade for Jacoby Brissett now, and then your next quarterback be in free agency and make that move in free agency next week. We've also seen Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn be aggressive in the trade market. But here was Jonathan Jones in his article about a possible return in a Jacoby Brissett trade. He said, quote, "The Cardinals could be willing to part with Jacoby Brissett if the team can get a decent day 3 pick in return. Arizona with new head coach Mike LaFleur could be in the market for Malik Willis, but league sources are pointing towards Jimmy Garoppolo as well. If that's the case, Arizona will need a quality backup considering Garoppolo's injury history." So that was Jonathan Jones of NFL on CBS on Jacoby Brissett. And the meat and potatoes of that was, if they do deal him, it would be for a good day 3 pick. And the Jets have tons of day 3 picks. They have a few 4th-round picks. They have 2 4ths. They got a 5th as well. So they've got some room to maneuver. They've got some assets to move in a potential Jacoby Brissett trade. And I would put it straight up, I'd be very willing, and I would do it in a heartbeat, to trade this year's 4th or a 5th-round pick to get Jacoby Brissett, especially from the standpoint of that's what the Cardinals are looking for. That's good value, in my opinion, for Brissett, and that's something that the Jets would be very willing to part with and be okay with parting with all the draft capital that they have over all 3 days this year, over 3 days next year, the 1st-round draft capital that they have. You're able to part with a 4th or a 5th-round pick and get Jacoby Brissett in here. I think that's a move you make in a heartbeat. And I think it's a move that I could see the Jets make. What, to me, makes Jacoby Brissett such an appealing option is we've talked so much about the Frank Reich style of quarterback. And we've talked so much about quarterbacks that fit and don't fit what Aaron Glenn and Frank Reich wants. Jacoby Brissett fits what they both want. He's a guy that's a hard worker. He's going to be one of 53. He's not going to be one and 52 other players. He's going to kind of be that first guy in, last guy out type of quarterback. He's a good leader, a good mentor for a young player. He's not somebody that's going to be all about me or have the work ethic concerns like Kyler Murray. This is a guy that is a good teammate, a good leader, a good locker room guy, comes in, does his job, plays quarterback at a competent NFL level, and fits what Frank Reich wants. We just said it a couple minutes ago. I don't want to keep repeating myself because we've talked about the Frank Reich mold of quarterbacks so much since he's been hired. But it's important for all these discussions. This is a guy that is 6'4", 235 pounds. He is that big body, strong arm pocket passer. You look at the list of quarterbacks that Frank Reich has worked with in his career, going back to Phillip Rivers, to Carson Wentz, to Andrew Luck, to Matt Ryan. All of those guys, 6'4", 6'5", tall, big body, 230, 235. Strong arms, pocket passers, play within the offense. Make the easy throws. Complete passes at a consistent clip. Don't turn the ball over. Play smart. All of those guys fit that billing. Brissett is right there too. And we saw it because he's worked with Frank Reich. And I think that's what makes Brissett such an appealing option. Not only does he fit that billing, but he's already worked with Frank Reich and he's had some success with him. He spent 3 seasons with him when Frank Reich was in Indy as the head coach. One of those years he spent as the full-time starter in 2019. As the starter, he went 7-8 in his 15 starts. He completed 60.8% of his passes for 2,942 yards, 6.6 yards per attempt, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a 52.1 QBR, and an 88 passer rating. Very solid numbers for a bridge quarterback. Very solid numbers for what the Jets are looking for. And that is, can you play quarterback at the most competent, average NFL level? Jacoby Brissett has done that throughout his career. And he's bounced around a ton, right? He started in New England, then spent 4 years in Indy. He was then in Miami for a year in 2021, then Cleveland for a year in 22, Washington for a year 23, New England for a year 24, then Arizona for a year 25. He has played for 5 different teams in the last 5 years. But a big reason, too, why a lot of these backups stick around is if they're good teammates, if they're good leaders. And Brissett is that. And I think that shows because he's bounced around. And if you want to make it as a backup quarterback in the NFL, you want to last as a backup quarterback in the NFL, a lot of that has to do with your character. A lot of that has to do with your ability to lead in the locker room and be somebody that guys can look up to in the locker room. Brissett kind of falls under that umbrella. Plus, his on-field play is competent. It's solid. To the point where last year, he was actually even better than competent. And I don't want to hype Jacoby Brissett up too much. I don't want to, Jacoby Brissett's not a Hall of Fame. I'm not trying to be like, oh, Jacoby Brissett's going to Canton. All we ask for as Jet fans is competent NFL quarterback play. Is Jacoby Brissett a Hall of Famer? No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what any Jet fans say. Is Jacoby Brissett an elite quarterback? No. But is he competent? Can he run an NFL offense? Can he run Frank Reich's offense? Yes. Is he one of 53? Yes. Can he lead a locker room? Yes. Can he make the simple, easy throws? Yes. That's all we're looking for. Is he the flashy option? Is he going to go out there and throw 40 touchdowns? No, but you're not going to find that with any of these guys. You're not going to find that. You're not going to sniff that with any of these guys. They're all available for a reason. They've all got their bumps and bruises. But in terms of the available options, I think Brissett's near the top for me. And I think for a lot of Jet fans, he should be near the top, especially when you hear what Jonathan Jones had a report about it costing them a day 3 pick. Throw a 4th round pick, throw a 5th round pick in there. I'd do it 100%. And I think this is where the path the Jets will take. I've said this a lot. I think Jacoby Brissett will end up a New York Jet. If I had to predict their opening day starter in 2026, I think you're looking at Jacoby Brissett as the one who's under center. You look at Brissett's numbers last year, they were very good. Yeah, he went 1-11 in his 12 starts, but he completed 65.1% of his passes, 3,366 yards, 6.9 yards per attempt, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 41.2 QBR, and a 94.2 passer rating. He was tied for 14th in touchdowns, 14th in yards. In both those areas, he was top 15. He was actually better than just average last year for that Cardinals team. He was. If you get 23 touchdowns and 8 interceptions out of Jacoby Brissett in 2026, you would sign up for that every single day of the week if you're a New York Jet fan. And that was in 12 starts. You stretch that across 17, you're sniffing 30 touchdowns. Now, I think that's an outlier. That is an outlier. Jacoby Brissett's not going to come here and throw 30 touchdowns. You're looking more at the 18 to 21 at best touchdown range season, maybe 16, 17, somewhere in that boat. But you told me that Jacoby Brissett would throw 3,336 yards next season, 21, 22, 23 touchdowns, 7 or 8 interceptions, and 17 starts. I would sign up every day of the week. What I think the Jets need at quarterback, and I think what the Jets are looking for, is somebody that can raise the floor. Is Jacoby Brissett going to raise this team's ceiling? No. Is he going to make this team and carry this team on his back and win 13 games? No. But he's a floor raiser? Yes. Is he going to be competent? Yes. The guy doesn't turn the football over. I think that's important too. And it's not that he doesn't turn the football over because he doesn't stretch the ball downfield or he doesn't take risks. No, he takes his fair share of risk. He's got a good arm. He's got a strong arm. But what he does well is just working within an NFL offense. He gets the ball out, finds the open guy. Simple quarterback play. We don't see that much as Jet fans. It's hard to explain. It's like something foreign when we talk about competent quarterback play. But that's what Brissett brings. In his 65 career starts, he's completed 61.9% of his passes for 14,056 yards, 6.6 yards per attempt, 73 touchdowns, 31 interceptions, and 86.6 passer rating in his career. He has just a 1.3% interception rate in his career, which is the lowest in NFL history. The guy doesn't turn the ball over. He takes care of the football. He plays within the offense that he is put into. And this is not somebody that's going to come in here and have to learn Frank Reich's scheme, and he already knows the scheme. He's had success in it. You go back to Brissett's 2019 season, like I said, 2,942 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. If he gives you that this season, that's all you can ask for as a bridge. 19, 20 touchdowns. Keep the interceptions low, around the 3,000-yard mark. That's all you can ask for. So I like Jacoby Brissett as an option. It would come cheap in a trade. And I do think it's something the Jets get done. Like I said, this is just my opinion. I don't have any sources. But if I had to guess, I think I could see a world where Jacoby Brissett is a Jet before Monday. You get one of your trade options done with, and then you sign somebody in free agency. That's, I think, the path the Jets take. I could be wrong. And if it is the path, it's something to keep an eye on here over the next couple days. So stay tuned. A lot more content coming your way. We'll be back tomorrow talking more quarterbacks. We'll be back talking more of the latest New York Jets offseason news as we get closer and closer to legal tampering on Monday. I cannot wait. There is not many things as an NFL fan that gets you more fired up than like the first big Adam Schefter notification or the notification of the Jets are signing this guy. Always gets you fired up. I can't wait to feel that again. So looking forward to that. So stay tuned. We'll be here through it all. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on the possibility of Tua becoming a New York Jet? Do you buy it? Don't buy it? Want Tua? Don't want Tua? I think most Jet fans are going to be like me and don't want Tua. But if you do, sound off down below. Love to hear everybody's opinions. Also, your thoughts on Jacoby Brissett and his trade value from Arizona being revealed. Stay tuned. A lot more content coming your way. Until next time, JETS, 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 Jets.